Thank you. I was pleased to be asked to speak today, and I must compliment the organizers on everything they've done. The only time that I really questioned their wisdom when they said that all of the guest speakers would have to spend the night last night in that tent in order to be sure that people were here for the morning. I didn't think it was a problem, 11 people in that tent, but then they said the a cappella people would be there as well. You had 18 or so of the a cappella singers, and it was quite crowded. So we didn't quite get the extra hour's sleep that one would normally get when you switch from daylight saving to standard time, but it all worked out. I thought that the theme of Nomads was a particularly interesting theme for today's sessions. Nomads have somewhat of a negative connotation to them. You can think of them as being itinerant, wanderers, perhaps even the original homeless people. But they do have a very positive connotation. The positive connotation of being self-reliant, self-sufficient, and fiercely independent. Those are traits that I think people should be striving for, people should be looking to emulate in terms of their own lives. And when my father was graduating from university, it was at the beginning of the Depression. And he took a job, a temporary job with the city of Montreal in the early 30s. 37 years later, he retired from the city of Montreal. And while I'm sure he did an excellent job, I think that maybe being in a solid position was more important to him than perhaps accomplishing everything he had dreamed about, everything he had thought about. But in fact, that paradigm is a thing of the past. Companies no longer have the loyalty to their employees that they once had. Getting a job and having it for life is now the exception rather than the rule. Employees as well are not as loyal to their employers simply because the employers are racked by economic events that will cause them to reduce their staff or do whatever is required to succeed. Let me tell you my story. As an undergrad in Montreal, I went to Loyola College, which has become part of Concordia University. And as an undergrad, I was, at best, a mediocre student. As I tell my students at the School of Business here, I majored in football and hockey. I played both sports at the intercollegiate level, enjoyed myself, but didn't really have the kind of time that one should devote to studying. At the end of my undergraduate career, I had no thought of a graduate diploma or going to graduate school until one day I got a call from the people at McGill who said, "Have you thought of going to graduate school?" I said, "You've got to be kidding." They said, No, we think you should." Well, at that time, university athletes had unlimited eligibility. So McGill was thinking if I went to their graduate school, I could play football for them, and that would be a good thing for both of us. So I went down, I talked to them, and talked to the dean of the law school, the dean of the business school. They both said, no problem. So then I thought, if I'm going to go to graduate school, I might as well look at other alternatives, and I was accepted at Queen's, at Western, at U of T, as well as McGill. So I decided to come to Queen's because a friend of mine had a great experience here, and he suggested it. So I came to Queen's, and the night before I was to report to the football training camp, I sat in my room in the graduate residence that's now part of JDoc. At that time it was the Memorial Union. I mean, I'm old enough that John Deutsch was the principal when I graduated. So, like, that wasn't yesterday. But there's a graduate residence that's attached to the JDoc. And I went to my room and I sat down. I sat in the dark for 2 hours. And I said to myself, you know, at certain points in time, you have to do things differently. And I decided at that point that I was here as a student in the MBA program. I would be here for 2 years. They couldn't take that away from me. So I decided I would not play football. So I ended up having all this extra time to devote to my studies. I was the youngest guy in the class. I worked more than I had ever worked. And I ended up finishing at the top of the MBA class over a 2-year program. And what it taught me was that I had capability that I never believed I had. I left the graduate school. I went and I took my chartered accounting degree in Toronto, and then went into the business world and did a bunch of things. Early on in my career, I had an opportunity to teach at University of Ottawa, and I did. I taught there for 3 years, loved it, but as a non-academic, the students look to you for different things. They look to you for advice on their careers, advice on what they should be doing, advice in terms of life. Well, I hadn't experienced very much. I hadn't done a whole lot. And I didn't feel that I could offer them the kind of advice that they were looking for. So what I did was I left the university and I went back into the business world. And at that time, when I was leaving, the dean of the management school called me and said, "Are you leaving because you don't have a PhD and you don't think you'll get tenure? Because I will guarantee that you will get tenure within 2 years." Now, for those of you who may not be familiar, tenure is the golden fleece. It is the major factor in a university professor's life. If you get tenure, you've got a guaranteed job, you can work within the university, and you're going to be there forever, and you will gradually get promoted and whatever. I said no. I said I can't do what's expected of me, so I'm going to leave. Now, some people might say that was misplaced confidence, but I thought I can do anything I want to do. So I went into the business world and I became chief financial officer of a small technology company, which eventually became the largest software development company in Canada. We took the company public. I worked with them. We drove revenues from $16 million to over $100 million in the 5 years that I was there. Then I left and I joined another software company. We developed that. We also made it grow, raised a bunch of money. But I found that I wasn't really connected. I wasn't really getting the psychic satisfaction that I should from spending all these hours and all this time. And there are penalties that you pay. Fortunately, I have a wonderful wife, and she took care of raising our 2 kids. I didn't spend nearly as much time with the kids as I should. Didn't devote enough time to the family to preserve that feeling of community. Fortunately, it didn't result in any kind of a marriage breakdown, but it easily could have. And then I began experiencing chest pains. So I went to the doctor. We went through a whole series of tests. And the result of the test was that I did not have a heart problem, but I was suffering from work-related stress. And so I met with my family doctor after the test, and he said, "Okay, we know what it is. You're going to have to slow down." So I did, or so I thought. 6 months later, the same symptoms appeared. I went to my family physician. I said, guess what? We're back to where we started. He said, we can do all the tests, but the reality is, have you changed your work habits, or are you doing the same amount of work but in less time? I said, well, that's probably what's happening. So he said, make up your mind, but you should change your lifestyle. And so what I did was I resigned from the company that I was with. I founded my own consulting company and decided that I was going to work only with companies that I truly enjoyed. And so in getting involved with companies, I enjoyed it. I was very successful at it. Over a 20-year period, I have probably helped raise $200 million for young technology companies. Have been involved in 5 IPOs, initial public offerings of technology companies. But I wasn't getting the real benefit. I really wasn't connected. I didn't share the people's single-minded drive to make profits, single-minded drive to enhance their own financial position. And I began casting about for alternatives. And fortunately, I had teaching experience. Fortunately, I had achieved some success in teaching. And so I sent out letters to various universities, quite frankly, universities within 200 kilometers of Ottawa, because I live in Ottawa. My wife has her own business there. 3 of our grandchildren are there. And there's no motivation for us to leave Ottawa, but I thought that it was really important for me to get back to something that I felt really passionate about. And I ended up, fortunately, being contacted by Queen's, who said, we have a problem. We have an accounting professor who is not going to be able to teach this year. Would you be able and willing to teach? Now, fortunately enough, I had my own consulting firm. It was a one-man firm. I was doing work in various locations, mainly in Toronto. But I had the flexibility and the ability to make the decision on my own. So this was the 15th of August 2001. And so I came down and they said, oh, by the way, we'd like you to start teaching September 1st, if that's okay. I thought, oh, okay. And I began teaching, and it was definitely a test period. It was definitely something that said, teach 3 sections of our introductory course, see how it goes, we'll make a decision. Well, I've never left. I have an apartment here on Ontario Street. My family lives in Ottawa. I'm back and forth every week. Usually, that trip is not very adventuresome or very problematic. Except 2 weeks ago in the rain, I went off the road after doing a 360-degree turn into the ditch, which kind of made you think a little bit. And when I was telling my classes about it the following week, I told them your life goes in front of your face, your life goes in a clip before you when you're in that problem. But I told them they did not become part of that at all. I was thinking family, I was thinking other things, not my students when it was what was your life all about. But I must tell you that dealing with students, dealing with young people is an absolute treat. I love it. I love being involved. I love having the time when I'm here in Kingston to be able to get involved outside of the classroom with the students, be it socially or whatever, because I believe you learn more outside the classroom than you do in the classroom. And I think that our objective as faculty have to be to educate the entire person. And when I was at University of Ottawa, I didn't think that I could make that contribution through my experiences. I left, gained a lot of experience, gained some moderate success, have come back to the university. I'm in my 11th year teaching, but I teach. I get paid to teach. I don't do research. I don't have to do any administration. I don't have to do anything except show up and teach, which to me is the most beautiful relationship that anybody could have with the university. It allows you to engage, it allows you to connect, it allows you to become part of the fabric of the university without having the other distractions that a lot of my colleagues have. The message that I really want to leave you with, having gone through my progression, until now I am doing something that I am passionate about, something that I love doing, never had any symptoms, maybe a little bit of frustration in dealing with students, but none of the stress or the issues that one can have in the business world. But the thing I want to leave you with is that you have to take control of your future. You have to take control of your career. You, as students here, are getting the best possible education that is available to you. You have to take that and leverage it into the life that you want to lead. Don't follow the traditional path because people say this is what you have to do. Do what you want. Do what you are passionate about. Do what you are going to be able to get satisfaction from and joy out of your life. You will be self-sufficient. You can be totally self-reliant. You can be fiercely independent. But the only way that that's going to happen is by you grabbing hold of your career and your life and making it work for you. Thank you.